Hello, I'm Evans Mirages, the Harry T. Wilkes Artistic Director for Cincinnati Opera, and welcome to this special online edition of Opera Insights. Our host today is my colleague from Opera Philadelphia, Michael Bolton. Rossini's Barber of Seville has been in our repertoire since our first season of 1920, 103 years ago. But it's the first time we've had it on stage in Music Hall since 2005. Over to you, Michael.
Thank you, Evans, for that introduction, and thank you for joining me for this very special edition of Opera Insights for Cincinnati Opera's The Barber of Seville. My name is Michael Bolton, and it is my pleasure to guide you through your preparations for the opera. And for this presentation, we'll be doing a series of stories which will look at various aspects of this piece and the production in ways that you may not have thought of in the past. First, The Barber of Seville and popular culture. From animated cartoons to hit movies to figure skating routines, Rossini's The Barber of Seville is so integrated into pop culture that we've all known it our entire lives. And you might even say that The Barber of Seville was even pop culture back when the opera premiered in 1816, and even when the play premiered on which it was based in 1775. We'll interview the person on the street just to see what they know about this opera, even if they've never been to an opera before. Then, we'll take a look at playwright Pierre-Augustin Caron de Beaumarchais, a man who has such a vast resume that he even helped the Americans with the American Revolution. And since Figaro is a barber, we will talk to Alfreda Howard. She is a hair and makeup artist in the television, film, and theatrical world, and she'll talk to us about the history of hair, hair and social hierarchy, and some things about hair during a production that you may not have thought about. And finally, it was my honor to talk to three of America's great interpreters of the role of Rosina: Jennifer Larmore, Suzanne Menser, and Frederica von Stade. We talked about the role of Rosina, we talked about getting their hair done, and we talked about Rosina and how she interacts with popular culture. So, if this is your first time at the opera or your 100th time at the opera, chances are you've at least heard of the title, The Barber of Seville. Everybody seems to have heard of it, and you may even know some of the music from it. And just to see how well known it is, I did this incredibly casual, incredibly unscientific survey of friends and even some strangers just to see what they knew about The Barber of Seville. The first one I did via Zoom. Friends and some colleagues, and without telling them the name of the title in advance, I asked them, what was the first thing they thought of when they heard the title, The Barber of Seville?
I just think of the novelas that my grandmother would watch, like these completely improbable plots that there's impossible. How could this possibly happen? And yet things happen.
Deception and silly, it's silly. Oofa.
I used to watch Bugs Bunny religiously, and the two operas that come to mind, one is Wagner and the other one is The Barber of Seville. So the moment you say Barber of Seville, I always think of Bugs Bunny.
Bugs Bunny. That was the first one I ever heard, was when he was singing The Barber of Seville.
Okay.
But I know I've heard it in commercials and cartoons.
I'm tied to cartoons on Saturday morning, so yes, Bugs Bunny.
Of course, I thought of Bugs Bunny first.
And I'm exactly the same. That was like my first introduction to Barber of Seville.
The first thing that came to my mind was the set of Barber of Seville. The set.
Wait. You mean everyone thought of Bugs Bunny when they heard the title, Barber of Seville? Surely I could find someone who didn't correlate this opera with an animated rabbit. So I set out to find that elusive unicorn that wasn't familiar with The Barber of Seville. I went to a local